Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Autodesk's Business Model Transformation. This webinar is brought to you by Live Lab Learning, which is a subsidiary of Academic Corporation, a wholly owned applied software company created to provide world-class training. This is Marcia Tucker and I'm delighted to be your moderator today. Throughout our presentation, we encourage you to interact with us by typing in questions and comments using the questions pane. We will be answering questions at the end of the presentation. This webinar is being recorded and will be available to you on our YouTube channel. If you haven't already, please search Live Lab Learning on Facebook and like our page to receive the latest information and special offers. When you visit our website, livelablearning.com, there's a complete schedule of our upcoming training. You will see that we have building design and construction, utilities and civil infrastructure, product design and manufacturing there. In addition to our upcoming events, you are winning a $25 gift card. You must be present at the end of the webinar, and that's when the drawing will take place. And I wanted to share a little bit about our upcoming webinars. Get connected, learn how to leverage the benefits of applied software and Autodesk, which is coming up this week, and then the power of desktop subscription. We hope you join us on all those. If you have any questions, please reach out to me at mtucker@asti.com. I wanted to share a little bit about Kim before we have her speak. Kim graduated from the Ohio State University in 1986, where she had then started her career in architecture in Columbus, Ohio. After 14 years in the architectural field, Kim joined Autodesk in 1999. Over the past 15 years, Kim's career at Autodesk has included a variety of roles, leading to her current responsibilities as Director of North American VAR Channel. She leads a team that's responsible for working with all value-added resellers in the United States and Canada. Kim has also been recognized by the Channel Company as a member of Power 100, the most powerful women in the channel, in 2013 and 2014. Kim is currently living in Atlanta, Georgia. Kim, we welcome you, and I'll turn this over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Marcia, and it's a pleasure to join the Applied Software team for this webcast today. Today I'm really going to talk about not just what subscription holds for Autodesk customers going forward, but I also want to back up a little bit and talk briefly about the technology disruptions that are taking place in both the AEC and manufacturing markets, and then tie that into why Autodesk subscription model is changing to support those changes. You know, technology has always disrupted the business of manufacturing, and it continues to do so. But technology is now also driving a more fundamental disruption in how products are used, sold, and serviced. You know, medical devices and other products are now being customized to the individual needs of each customer and then manufactured. We see Rolls-Royce with their Power by the Hour program and how it's changing the fundamental business model related to selling jet engines. And from an AEC perspective, you know, Google is now selling Nest, and they're not selling Nest because they want to sell thermostats. Instead, they see Nest as a piece of the connected home and a way to expand their reach. Clearly, technology advancements have the potential to impact a wide range of businesses, including your business. I'm going to drill just a little bit further into this and talk about how technology is creating a disruption again in both the manufacturing and AEC markets. The status quo is being disrupted by industry forces and technologies which are reshaping production, demand, and the products themselves. When we talk about production, we're really looking at how things are designed and made. We look at demand by what customers care about and who and where they are. And then, of course, products is the product itself, whether it be something that's handheld or a building itself. It's no surprise that products are now connected and networked. This is true for all industries. Products that gather and communicate data are now commonplace. They not only perform a task, but they're also part of a greater ecosystem. The result is that they are more complex, requiring sensors, electronics, and embedded software. This also makes products more sticky. Take the Apple Watch, for example. If you invest in an Apple Watch, it requires you to have an iPhone, which will greatly reduce the likelihood that you as a consumer will now replace that iPhone with a competitive product, necessitating the replacement of your watch. Now, the means of production is also changing. Communication expansion and connectivity means that organizations like GM can work collaboratively on design projects across the globe to reach local taste and culture more effectively. It also means that small startup companies can establish an instant supply chain with micro-factories and specialty manufacturing. Manufacturing itself is becoming more flexible and fully automated so that the production can change quickly, meaning smaller runs that are more cost-effective and product updates can occur more easily without large investments. It means that new ideas can be brought to the market faster and by anyone. Finally, the way manufacturers consider traditional protection of IP through patents is also changing. Take Tesla, for example, who recently opened the IP rights to their Model S, knowing that the strongest differentiator lies in their powertrain, manufacturing, and distribution competencies. Now, as I shared, I'm going to talk about manufacturing and AEC, and this disruptive technology is also driving changes in buildings. Just as with manufacturing, physical things are connected to one another, becoming deeply interconnected systems. The physical and digital interconnection creates new opportunities to add value to built assets or spaces. The Nest thermostat learns occupant behaviors and offers better environmental control and energy efficiency. This data-driven insight about how we use space is scaling up to environments like the Midfield Airport Terminal building in Dubai, which uses sophisticated technology for innovative baggage handling, duty-free item sales, and efficient passenger processing of passengers, just as a few examples. It gives us a way to respond to the demand for high performance across so many dimensions: occupancy levels, energy performance, and water usage, to just name a few. These connected systems will create opportunities for building owners and occupants, designers and contractors, and product manufacturers, the entire ecosystem, to extend their collective capabilities. In the future, buildings and their elements will generate streams of data, and these objects will be the data with analysis to form connected systems of insight. We'll understand through these linkages how spaces and structures perform in terms of systems both environmental and economical. We'll have more insight and control from any place at any time to reduce energy consumption, build more efficiently, and develop even social spaces that people can respond to. The vision can be as big as we want it to be. We can see the bigger impact of each small decision we make in design, in construction, operations, and occupation within a space, and its impact going forward. Now, if your current projects or customers are not incorporating some of these technological advances that I touched on, they will be in the near future. The opportunity before you is to leverage technology solutions available to you today to increase your capability to compete and differentiate your company from your competitors. Now, underlying these changes is also an evolution in technology used to design things. At Autodesk, we divided this evolution into 3 technology eras: the eras of documentation, optimization, and connection. The era of documentation was focused on digitizing existing processes and managing the data that resulted. It provided an efficiency but did not fundamentally change the processes. The era of optimization provided new ways to solve problems that could not be solved effectively through traditional development and physical prototyping processes. This allowed companies to increase their capabilities and reduce costs and time to market. Now, the era of connection extends the ability of companies to connect their business processes and collaborate with stakeholders, and to change the way they operate, to transform from product-only businesses to an enterprise model where products become the platform for services. It's important to realize that each era incorporates the era that came before. It's not as if documentation goes away when a company adopts optimization. Similarly, a company that moves into the era of connection still optimizes the products during development. The key takeaway for you to understand is what is changing is the capabilities you need to compete that are ramping up. Because disruption, as it always does, will go on to create a new era of competition. And this era will be characterized into 4 separate buckets. One area is the access to unlimited processing power, which will be able to solve the most complex problems, and in fact will be required to do so. We'll also see a change in impact to the talent pool. There will be a seamless connection of talent so that the best ideas can come forward and are considered. Intellectual digital connectivity of buildings and products is also going to unlock new forms of value moving forward. And it's also going to free access to capital by reducing risk and making it possible to access or to source or have alternative sources of financing like crowdfunding. These capabilities are going to be able to be available to any company, regardless of size, type, or location. The key here is that the barriers to access will be very low. Now, in this world, subscription is also becoming a new norm. This is not unique to Autodesk or even to software. In fact, you may see benefits of this in your personal life today. A subscription that enables you to access information at any time from anywhere. You know, with the explosion of digital data, everything we know is changing. So let me step back and just kind of look at some advancements or see some impacts to subscription that you might be seeing in your everyday life. Take newspapers, for example. Many people still may have a newspaper delivered to their door, but more and more people are gravitating to have a subscription that is actually online and allowing you to access that data digitally. I can be on the other side of the world and still stay up to date on the local news within my home community of what's going on. No longer do I need to wait until I get home to actually read the physical newspapers. We also see the forms of entertainment or streaming of entertainment changing. You may be able to decide in a couple of nights you want to watch a movie. You used to go down to a local brick and mortar store, see if the current release that you were interested was in stock. If it was, you rented it and took it home. If not, you either had to change your plans, pick a different movie or pick a different night. Today, more and more people are subscribing to services that allow them to stream the entertainment to their location, wherever that might be, at home, at a friend's, in a hotel room, and across any device that's convenient for them. So there's no longer a need of having to wonder, is that release available to me at the brick and mortar? I can download it and have it when I want it at my convenience. Now, one other example I'm just going to share with you, and this is something I can personally relate to, and that was, you know, a few years ago I purchased a car, and I had a navigational system built into the car. And as Martha shared, I lived in the Atlanta area, and if you know the Atlanta market, it's great and very useful, particularly in high traffic time, to find ulterior routes or to understand where you're headed. Now, I still have the navigational system in my car, but today I really use the same technology on my smartphone. And it provides me additional flexibility than the unit in my car can. In fact, I actually mount my smartphone right over the screen in my car so I can watch the navigational. But because I have changed how I'm receiving that information, and on the device that I'm receiving it, I can actually sit in my office, see what the traffic's like, map my path to my destination, know how long it's going to take me, and do all the planning for my office, and no longer have to be sitting in my car to do that. So let's bring back some of the conveniences that we may see in our personal lives today and realize that bringing this into the business world really is no different. We see the same benefits. In fact, companies that embrace this model and balance the threat and the opportunity of this platform shift are going to thrive, and all of them will have subscription models of some form. So what I'd like to do is talk with you now about the different ways that subscription or you can subscribe to Autodesk technology today. And we've been maintaining 3 different forms of delivering technologies now for a couple of years, some much longer than that. We have the options of having a permanent license, which many of you watching this webcast or attending probably own. We also have what we introduced a couple of years in terms of a desktop subscription, and then we also have cloud offerings. You know, each one of these delivery methods, we have started to deliver and bring different technologies to market. So I want to touch on each one of these and then help you see some of the differences between them and then start to address some common questions that have come up. So on the maintenance licenses, what many of you are familiar with is you own a license to software, and that license is tied to a physical asset, a computer in your office. And you, in the past, had the option to purchase upgrades or keep that software up to date. As of last year, the way to keep your current licenses up to date are having that on a maintenance program. And many of you currently have your licenses under a subscription, which we refer to as maintenance. It provides additional benefits to you above and beyond the core technology. Probably the first and foremost advantage is it provides you the newest releases. And each year when we have a software release, and for some of our products it's more than once a year, you automatically receive those and choose to download that to your asset and run with the newest tech. A couple of other advantages of your maintenance subscription is it provides you access to previous release. It provides you access to a home license so that as you work with the software in your office, you also, if your company chooses, allows you to load it at home. So you can get those two installations, but it's really one person using it in one place or the other. Now, a couple of years ago, as I shared, we introduced our desktop subscriptions, and we actually have started to bring new technologies to market, only available underneath this subscription model. Our InfraWorks 360 bundle is a great example of one of those technologies it's brought. Now, desktop brings much more flexibility as we talk about trends going on in the market, particularly wanting to access your information anytime from anywhere from multiple devices. Desktop provides that flexibility as one of its many benefits. Unlike a perpetual license, a desktop license is attached to a user. So as I purchase a license on subscription, I can then load that software onto as many devices as I would like to work on. The software is loaded directly to the device. It remains on the device, so I'm not working from the cloud, and my data resides on my device. But it gives me that flexibility that one license, if I want to use it on my laptop as I travel, as maybe a desktop within my office, I have a home machine, the application I'm working with also can be accessed from a tablet. I, since it is tied to a user, have the rights to load it on as many devices as I'd like. Now, it's based on a subscription, and so many of the, and I should say all, plus many more of the benefits of a maintenance subscription also apply to desktop. Things like previous use. You get the most current data and technology available to you when we release it. It also provides some additional flexibility in terms of the time or length of time that I'd like to own and use the software. And it also provides me greater flexibility if I travel outside of the United States, for example. No longer do I have a time limit as to how long that license can legally be used outside the U.S. And again, it's all about providing more flexibility and access to technology. Now, what do you think I mean by access to technology? Probably one of the biggest advantages of the desktop subscription is it has a very low cost of entry. If you recall, as I talked about trends within the market, things are moving at a very fast pace, and that the technologies, whether it be for computing data, whether it be for leveraging both the physical and the digital, right, there becomes accessible to everybody, all sizes of companies. The entry or cost point on a desktop subscription of an Autodesk technology has a much lower threshold than purchasing a permanent license. So it provides access for you to try on a project. Maybe you pilot it, or maybe you just need a specific additional technology to solve a solution. You can actually acquire that subscription for a month, for a quarter, or for a year. So again, it provides much more flexibility in terms of which technologies you utilize and for how long. For businesses that ramp up and have cycles where you staff up for a heavy workload and then come down to a normal staff load level that might be a little bit lower, this is also a great venue for you to, again, subscribe to the technology for the time frame that you need it. Now, of course, we also have started to deliver and will continue to deliver cloud applications like Fusion 360 or A360 as two examples. So the key point I want you to understand is we are bringing you the same technology and we're continuing to develop that technology. There are just 3 different ways that you can choose to subscribe and maintain current technology moving forward. Now, one other thing I'd like to share with you is many will ask the question in terms of pricing or what do we see coming down the future. And one thing I'd like to share with you is whether you're on a maintenance subscription or if you're on a desktop subscription, customers have always had the option to do a subscription in the case for maintenance for 1 year or extend that to 2 or 3 years. By extending a subscription contract to 2 or 3 years, you lock down today's pricing for the next 2 or 3 years on maintaining the current release as well as all the other benefits that subscription brings. Now, moving forward, subscriptions will need to be maintained in a timely manner, meaning that they need to be renewed before the due date. Customers in the past have benefited from late renewals. Sometimes there were late fees attached to that, and it wasn't as tight in terms of usage of the software to that subscription. It's going to be very important moving forward that you do not let the maintenance contracts lapse if your intention is to maintain subscription and maintain getting the new releases on your permanent licenses. So key note is you want to ensure that those subscription contracts are renewed on time or even, a week earlier, but do not let those lapse. Now, when we talk about subscription renewals on desktops, you have that same flexibility. As I shared earlier, you can acquire a subscription license for a month, a quarter, or for a year, but you can also ensure that today's pricing is extended out for the next 2 or 3 years by doing a multi-year contract on your desktop subscription also. Now, a couple of other things I'd like to share with you are some key upcoming dates and address some questions of how those dates might be impacting how you're using software today or how you might want to be managing your software. The first date that I want to talk about is really right around the corner. We're less than 60 days away, and that's January 31st. And this will be the last opportunity to purchase a new seat of most of our individual solutions. So individual solutions are things like an individual seat of AutoCAD or Inventor or Revit. It's not a collection of products, it's just an individual solution. And you'll see here in a few minutes, I'll share with you a URL link that is on the Autodesk.com website, on the public site, that you can check all the actual licenses that are impacted by this January 31st date. Now, 2 key takeaways I want customers to understand. If you currently own permanent licenses, we also refer to them as perpetual, but permanent licenses, you have them loaded in your office today. What happens to that software after January 31st? Well, you can continue using that software indefinitely. We're not going to force you to move off of that software or change your software. If your software is not currently on a maintenance subscription contract and you own a 2016 license, you will continue to own and have access to use your 2016 licenses. If it's important to you that you maintain upcoming updates, the new releases of software, along with the other subscription benefits, you want to ensure that you renew that contract. So again, after this January 31st date, if you have a permanent license and it's on maintenance subscription, and you maintain that maintenance subscription, you can do that indefinitely. You'll continue to receive the same updates to the technology, and you can use it the same way you do today. Remember, what we're talking about here is how you are renewing or how you're subscribing to the updates is where you have your option. Now, the second date I want to share with you is July 31st of 2016. And you've got a little over 7 months away here, and this will be the last opportunity to purchase new seats of permanent suite solutions. And this is where a suite is a collection of our products. You might have a product design suite or a building design suite. It's where one license has multiple software technologies tied to it. Just like with the permanent licenses of individual solutions, if you have some permanent licenses of a suite solution after this July 31st date, you can continue using that software indefinitely. If it's on subscription maintenance, then you will continue to receive the updates. Every time we release a software update, you'll get it along with the current support and subscription benefits that you enjoy. So 2 key takeaways if you are looking for additional purchasing of permanent licenses. We'll talk about what your other options are here in a minute. But if you're looking for permanent licenses, and again, here's that URL that you can go to also see the positioning as well as list of products that are impacted for January 31st as well as July 31st. The key takeaway is if you want additional permanent licenses, you would want to make those purchases before July 31st or January 31st. The other takeaway is for those permanent licenses after either one of these dates, you can definitely continue to use your permanent licenses. You will not be forced to give them up, and you will have the option to use them as long as you would like. Now, many people may ask, well, why is Autodesk making this change now? Well, as I shared, we're not by any means first within the market to make this shift to subscription, and you can see across multiple industries and multiple aspects of your life potentially are moving to a subscription basis. But we're really making this change to support the trends and changes within the markets to provide the flexibility and low cost of entry for people to access new technology. A couple of other things to keep in mind is this isn't something that we just started last month or even the beginning of this year. We have started to make and provide alternate choices for how people acquire their software a couple of years ago. Last year, we slowly started to phase out the manual upgrades and moved everybody to a subscription base only for updates regarding permanent. So this is just the continuation and the completion of a process we've really started for a couple of years now. Well, let me share with you now some of the common questions that customers have and hopefully can answer some of your questions. You know, I know I've addressed this before, but it doesn't hurt to reiterate that if you currently have permanent licenses, you can continue to use those indefinitely. They're not going to disappear on you. You're not going to lose usage of those. Now, as I shared, it's key if you have permanent licenses that you continue to maintain those on your maintenance subscription if you desire to continue to receive the current updates coming out as well as the extra benefits of subscription. Now, one thing I do want to emphasize for you, in the past, some customers have wanted to renew maintenance subscription contracts late, or that they've paid a late fee to be able to do that, or have considered that they've had a grace period after that subscription date in which they could renew the contract. After January 31st, those contracts are going to need to be renewed on time. There will no longer be an option to renew them late, and there will be no late grace period. This is common with many subscription programs, whether they're for services or products. So please make note to ensure that your maintenance contracts are renewed on time or even a few days earlier. In fact, you can renew your subscription contract up to 90 days prior to the subscription contract due date. So let me touch on a couple of other items, and particularly for those of you that might have permanent licenses on a network system right now. Many people wonder, well, after these due dates, can I add additional licenses to my network? And the answer to that is yes, because you'll be able to add additional licenses. They will not be permanent licenses, but they will be subscription-based or term time-based licenses. So you'll actually be able to run in a hybrid environment, both permanent licenses as well as subscription-based. And as I'm mentioning network activations, let me take a moment and just share with you that if you currently have permanent licenses that are used as standalone, meaning they're installed on one machine and you need to go to that machine to use it, a great opportunity to be looked at is making those licenses network activated. And you have up to the deadlines, so you have up until January 31st if you have an individual license to make that network activated, and you have until July 31st for the suite products. A network activation could bring you additional flexibility on how you leverage the permanent licenses you currently have, and this would be a great discussion to have with applied software. You know, another question that comes up after these deadlines is, what can I do with my permanent licenses after these deadlines? So you have just a few options, and I'd like to walk you through those. Let me use an example that if you currently have a seat of AutoCAD, an individual license, and you would like to move that either to an individual permanent license of Revit or maybe Inventor, you have until January 31st to be able to make that transition. You can work with Applied and move that AutoCAD license over to another permanent individual solution offering. Now, what happens if it's February 15th? We're past that deadline and you have a seat of AutoCAD and you want to have access, again, to Revit or even to Inventor. We're no longer selling permanent licenses of the individual permanent solutions for Revit or Inventor, so that option will no longer be available to you. But what you could do is transition that AutoCAD permanent license to a permanent suite offering so that you could have access to either the Revit or Inventor or whatever technology you're needing to access. Now, you can do that between now and July 31st. After July 31st, and if you have a permanent license, it really will maintain itself in that solution. We're no longer selling permanent licenses, so there will be nothing that you, for a permanent license, be able to transfer that license to. So this is another good reason to meet with your account exec with Applied Software to look at how you're using your technology, where you might want to be transitioning some licenses that you have today, maybe to another software application we offer, and do that before those deadlines so you can take advantage of the best strategies you can. Now, of course, as we talk about our rental products, and again, remember those are termed and you have offerings for whether it's a 30-day, a 3-month, or an annual. Many customers have asked, well, as Autodesk makes this move to move all of our technologies to a subscription base, you know, will some of my software go away? Will any of the products be discontinued? We have no plans right now to discontinue any of our software. We're going to continue to develop it, offer the new offerings, and again, that's why your maintenance subscription is going to be key if you have permanent licenses. Now, a couple months ago, we did announce the discontinuation of our AutoCAD design suite. That announcement was made based purely on demand. We find that our customers are either gravitating toward the individual permanent license, a DTS subscription, or they're moving up to one of our design suites. So we did announce the discontinuation of just that one suite, and that really was independent of our move to subscription. So we don't foresee any discontinuation of products due to our move to subscription. Now, when we talk about this move to subscription, another common question that comes up is, should I stock up on permanent licenses? And really, that's not a question that I can answer for you. Each business is different and unique in terms of the services you provide, the technologies you're looking to use, how you deploy and leverage your software. So again, this is a great discussion to sit down and have with Applied. Now, I will tell you that if you do want to buy a few extra permanent licenses, you certainly want to do that before those deadlines. But there are many other options than just stocking up. So again, it's a hard question for me to answer, and you really want to look at your overall strategy of what best fits your business. Now, I touched a little bit also on subscription, and there certainly are a number of benefits to that. And I want to reemphasize that as you hold a maintenance subscription contract on your permanent licenses, you'll continue to leverage and have benefit from the benefits that that subscription contract brings. So you'll still have access to previous use, you'll still have access to your home licensing. Obviously, you'll continue to get your current release as we continue to develop the solutions. You'll also have access to cloud credits, and there's some support tagged with that. If you're not leveraging all the benefits that currently come with your maintenance subscription contract, please connect with Applied to make sure that you're leveraging all that you can for what you're paying for. Now, of course, with the desktop subscription licenses, you have all of those benefits and more flexibility. So remember, with the desktop subscription, because it's tagged to a user versus the device, I can load that software on multiple devices for the same user to use. I still have the flexibility of previous use. I have flexibility to be able to travel in and out of the country utilizing my software, and of course, you'll always have access to the most current releases that they're made available. Now, it's interesting as we talk about the internet, particularly with folks looking at the desktop subscription product, another common question that comes up is, do I need to be connected to the internet at all times to use a desktop subscription license? And the answer to that is no. So the best way I can walk you through this is just as if you had a permanent license today and we released a new release of the software, or even if you purchased a new permanent license, many of you already are going out to the internet and downloading either the upgrade or the new release of software. You're also downloading and activating your license. You do the same thing with the desktop subscription. As I acquire a desktop subscription license, I get notification, I can go download the software to my device, and that's key for you to know that the software is loaded on the machine that you're using, as well as the data that you're using is stored on your device. So I download to my machine, I download and activate my license, and then from there I can disconnect from the internet and continue working. I can work this way for 30 days. If I'm disconnected from the internet about 7 days before that 30-day time period, in software I'll get a notice to remind me to quickly and briefly log into the internet, ping, activate, or validate my license, and I can disconnect and continue working for 30 days. Now you'll see that we're also going to be bringing to the market the multi-user option for desktop subscription. That will provide some different flexibilities in terms of validating your license, but today on the single user, again, software is loaded onto your machine and you do not need to be connected at all times to work out that. Now I talked on the permanent licenses to network, and so I won't cover that again, though again that's a common question. So please make sure before these deadlines hit, if you haven't done so already, please stop and take a look at how you want to use your software, what's your go-forward strategy, even for growth and staffing, to find the best process and mix of licensing. Remember, the key takeaway is it's the same software that you'll be using. What we're talking about here is how the software is delivered and how you're maintaining that software via subscription, whether it be a maintenance or a terms license or even a cloud offering. Now, I've shared quite a bit of information with you, and you may be asking yourself, well, what should I do next? So there are really 3 points that I'd like to leave with you. One is to review the technologies that you're currently using and compare that against what's available to you to make sure that you're securing your capability to compete today and going forward with the changes we see going in the market. I also encourage you to set up a meeting with Applied Software to review your business profile. As I shared, every business is unique. You are doing things to differentiate your firm. Your clients might be asking for different things. So it's important to sit down and lay a strategy, and Applied can help you do that, of how not only can you be competitive going forward, but that you're maximizing the technology that's available to you. Now, when you have that meeting, I also encourage that you bring all the stakeholders together from your side. So what do I mean by that? If you're listening to this webcast and you currently are not responsible for actually the purchasing of the software, or you're not concerned if the software is funded via capital expenditure or an operating expenditure, you may want to see if that is of value or concern to anybody in your firm and have them join this meeting. Also, if you're not responsible for deploying the licenses or managing the licenses, you may want to have someone who is also join the strategic planning meeting with Applied so that you can address all of the business needs and find the best solutions go forward. So with that, we can open up and see if there are any additional questions that have come in on the line.
The first question that came in early on in the presentation says, why do you consider advances in technology to be disruptive as opposed to an enhancement?
Oh, that's a great question. And, you know, sometimes I talk about that, and I don't think I touched on that here today. So I would say it becomes, we use the word disruptive because it really challenges people to change how they're working. Now, disruptive doesn't mean it's negative, right? Advancements at all times will cause people to stop and reevaluate how they're working. They might retool. They may change their processes. So it forces a change, which is why we use the word disruptive. But disruptive does not always mean negative. Advancements in our technologies over the years, as the person submitting the question, brings enhancements, brings benefits, and hopefully I even highlighted some of those benefits we see on a personal level, right? As we have access to data and more data becomes digital, and we can access it from anywhere at any time, it brings great advantages and benefits for both the user and the business.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay. Now we have another question that says, so Autodesk changes the old terminology from subscription to permanent license and invents another definition called desktop subscription. Then they say the bottom line is that the annual cost of a seat of Building Design Suite Premium increases by about $1,000 per year. How do we not look at this as a huge price increase?
Great question. So we're really comparing apples to oranges. So a customer who has a permanent license who had a very heavy upfront investment in that license will see that they will have a lower maintenance subscription cost. Their maintenance subscription cost, I'm not sure how they wrote that question, but I don't believe they're seeing any $1,000 increase in their permanent license subscription. Now, in a desktop subscription, it has a very low cost of entry. So your upfront investment, unlike the permanent, is very low. So, for example, a seat of AutoCAD. If I went to purchase a permanent license of AutoCAD, I'd be spending between $5,000 and $6,000. To get a seat of subscription desktop on AutoCAD, I'm looking at like $1,000. So it is a shift in how the investment is put into that license. So permanent has a heavy upfront investment and has a lower maintenance today of maintaining that product. Desktop subscription has a much lower cost of entry, meaning you can invest in that software with a lower cash outlay. And then you'll see more of a consistent model in terms of maintaining it going forward. The other beauty of the desktop is if I don't need the software, I don't need to be paying for it. So again, I can acquire the software in a 30-day, in a quarter period of time, or a year period of time. And if I don't have any use for it, I don't need to renew it. And if a year later I want the most current release and I need it for a project, I can resubscribe. So it provides greater flexibility with a lower cost of entry.
Yes, ma'am. All right. We have another question that is, does this new software business model eliminate a network version that is shared by many users? I think you kind of addressed that, but let's go over it again.
That's a great question, and I'm glad you have asked that. So today, a desktop subscription license is tied to an individual user, and I can load that on multiple devices, but it's tied to one user. We fully understand that customers are wanting that flexibility that network brings. So in the future, near future, we'll be providing what is called a subscription for multi-users, and it'll provide that flexibility. I don't have the details to share with you today, but I would expect in maybe the next 40 or 60 days, more details will be available. And I know that Apply Software is just excellent at bringing their customers the newest information as Autodesk releases it. So stay tuned for the details on that, but that will be coming. And again, that will be a subscription license for multi-users that will give you that flexibility.
All righty, thank you. The next question is, and some of these may be slightly redundant, but I really want to address each one.
Sure.
The next question is, will my perpetual license switch or convert to subscription in the future as long as I am current on maintenance subscription?
Right now, I'm not aware of any plans. You choose as a customer to maintain your permanent licenses on your maintenance subscription, or you have a subscription-only model. So if something changes with that, again, Applied would make that available to you, but right now I don't have any information in terms of requiring customers to make that change, or even if you wanted to, what that would look like. So the question is how you have your license and how you're maintaining your subscription. So I don't have any information or even details of what that options might be in the future. So if that's something a customer is looking for, they should, stay tuned with Applied Software to understand as we release information. But right now, we're not forcing customers who are permanent license owners on maintenance subscription. We are not forcing or driving them to convert it all to a desktop subscription model. They can maintain that maintenance subscription indefinitely.
Yes, okay. All right, we have another gentleman who has a question. Does Autodesk have plans for full versions of their design suites? You're going to love this one, for Mac.
Oh, great question, and that comes up periodically, and I'll tell you what, I don't have the answer for that. So if you could capture that, Marcia, we could check with our technical folks of what our plans are going forward, and then maybe circle back with your customer base. So great question, but I don't have a definitive answer for you at this time.
All righty, I will make note of that. Okay, then next question is, let's say you rent the subscription for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Then you don't need it for a year, and then you rent it again. Mm-hmm. Do you have to get the newest version at that time? I'm concerned with every new release, there's still bugs not worked out, whereas if you stay on the version you're comfortable with, you can go back to that version. Or can you go back to that version?
Great question. So desktop or our subscription-based licenses also provide you access to previous release. So just as you have on your permanent license, you have the option to use an earlier release because you're on subscription. Your desktop subscription will bring you that same benefit. So stay tuned for additional details of how that works. But again, previous use will be provided and is provided with our desktop licensing.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next question is, is there any information available on the desktop subscription costs? And yes, please call us at Applied Software.
Yes.
We have that.
I was just going to say, one of the biggest advantages and benefits of the Autodesk solutions is our channel partners like Applied Software. And so Applied Software will be able to provide you all of the pricing and, again, set up that meeting with them, and they can help you look at what is your best strategy going forward so you can have comfort level on your path as we approach these deadlines and beyond.
Mm-hmm. Here's our next question. I currently have a subscription of Autodesk Building Design Suite Premium. What will be the cost to renew my subscription next year? Or will that particular suite no longer be available?
Okay, so they have, I'm going to kind of answer this in a couple of stages. So they currently have Design Suite on a permanent license. They can continue to keep that on maintenance going forward, and those products will be updated as new releases come out. And they should reach out to Applied Software to get the pricing for that maintenance subscription renewal. You'll be able to, Applied will be able to provide that pricing for you. Since I don't sell it, or we don't really sell it directly, we work through our channel partners. They provide the pricing for you. So I don't have that at my fingertips.
The next question is, how are the devices tied to, in parentheses, the user? What defines user?
So it is your login to that user, and I'm going to kind of chuckle here a little bit. So when I joined Autodesk about 15 years ago, I was an application engineer, and I probably could answer the back office workings for you in a heartbeat. So I'm not going to try and answer that, as I'm not as engaged right into the nuances on the back side of the hardware. So you could do one of two things, and again, my biggest advice is to reach out to Applied. We do have information with our partners as well as Autodesk.com that provides information of how that is tied to the user and follows me, but it goes with my login, right, of access, so that, again, I can load it on multiple devices, and it's when I log in, it recognizes that I'm the user working on that device and I have a license.
Okay, thank you. All right. Next question says, Kim, why would Autodesk not provide both subscription and permanent license options instead of eliminating the permanent option? Companies that plan to use the software for longer than a year or two, which are most firms that hope to stay in business, will be paying massive increases for the rental license in as little as 3 years.
Well, so if they're on permanent licenses, so let me back up. There are a number of questions in there. So we have been transitioning and carrying permanent licenses, subscription licenses, as well as even cloud offerings all together. Not just, and again, this isn't an Autodesk driving things to a subscription basis, but it brings a number of benefits, not just in terms of low cost of entry or allowing to have somebody use the software for smaller segments. It also enables and makes it very easy to assign software, say, to projects if you're in construction or project-based, and tag that cost actually, and can define that cost to a project to tag it to. So there are a number of benefits that come with that, and this really is a trend that's just not Autodesk. But many companies before us and many that will follow are all moving to a subscription base. So we carried multiple, the permanent and the subscription, for a couple of years now. And it's a transition period that we have tried to communicate out to customers. This is the direction we're going, and allowing time for people to decide what is their best route to do going forward. If you have permanent licenses, you can see, looking back, how maybe costs have been impacted. I don't have a crystal ball to be able to look forward. I think costs in every aspect of our lives get impacted as we move forward. So I think that's where multi-years become beneficial to lock down price. But maintaining both license styles, both permanent and subscription, for long durations of time is just not really probably the most effective way for us to bring technology to market. So we've tried to do the best thing. Some companies have taken a very short time period to transition their customers over to subscription. Autodesk has selected to do it over a longer period of time to give people more time for planning and decide what their strategy is to go forward, because again, someone can maintain their permanent licenses on their current maintenance program, which has, again, a little bit lower cost of maintenance than a subscription license because it has a high investment cost up front. They can choose to maintain that. We are just selecting, and again, we'll support those permanent licenses. You'll get your updates with your subscription contract, but we are choosing not to sell brand new ones just because it's the most effective way for us to get the newest technology out to the customer base.
The next question is, we currently have Building Design Suite standard subscription, which we renew annually. Will that remain the same? And then the next question is, from that same participant, will that be for all similar seats?
Yes, so if they currently have Building Design Suite, I believe you said standard, they're on an annual subscription or a maintenance subscription model. So they're already on a subscription model. We just call it maintenance because it's keeping up to date their permanent licenses. They can continue to do that indefinitely. So they can continue to renew that every year. The key takeaway is they want to ensure that they are renewing that on time or slightly early. And the reason why I say slightly early is you want to make sure it's on-time renewal. We will be removing late renewals. And I don't think that's really unusual, again, for many models out in the market. You acquire a contract and you want to make sure it's renewed on time. That will be their key. And they can continue to do that indefinitely. They can do it annually, or again, they can leverage a multi-year contract and choose to renew their contract every 2 to 3 years if they choose.
All right. One other question here. Will a permanent license be able to use the cloud version, or is there an added cost?
Can you read that question again one more time, please?
Will a permanent license be able to use the cloud version, or is there an added cost?
Okay, so for our permanent licenses, we don't really have cloud versions. I'm going to guess that they mean our desktop subscription license, right, which is a subscription basis. Again, it's slightly different than cloud because I'm downloading my technology to my device. If you want the, right now, you have a permanent license or you have a subscription-based license. The benefits that come with the subscription-based license are only available to that pure subscription license. So if I have a permanent license, for example, of AutoCAD, I do not get all the benefits of a subscription termed license, right? I can't choose to do a 30-day. It's not tagged to a user. It's still tagged to a device. So you have the benefits of the subscription model that you've acquired. The two are not merging.
We do have a critical question here, I find. And the question is there any grace for customers who have let maintenance lapse for their current products?
Yes. So if you are on a current release of software right now and you do not have a maintenance contract, Autodesk is allowing customers to put that on a maintenance contract. We are waiving any late fees or late penalties for that, and you would need to do that by January 31st. So if you currently have a current release of a permanent license, not on subscription, you need to get a hold of Applied Software and talk with them and get that on a maintenance subscription contract prior to January 31st.
Thank you all for attending. We hope that you found this webinar informative and a help to your business. We look forward to you joining our next webinar, and thank you very much. Bye-bye.